up everybody, ShockerJoe911 here, and I'm going to be doing something a little bit different here. I'm going to be focusing on one game right here. You know how I usually go with, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 games to get my thoughts and get my, of course, pass, mediocre, and pick me up. I'm going to be focusing on one game, and a game I finally beat. And I had this game for a while now, and it is, of course, Majora's Mask. Now, of course, when I first played Majora's Mask, which was back in 2000, I really did not care for it. I hated how how you had to always go back in time and lose your accessories like your arrows and your bombs, and also from your rouges. But then I found out that you have a bank account that you can save your rouges on, but you still had to go back to get your arrows and your bombs, which still was a very much of a hassle a little bit, and that what also kind of drew me away from Majora's Mask back then was probably the different things that the townspeople would do. I mean, they would not stick in one location like what the Ocarina of Time would do. Now, I still got to say that the Ocarina of Time to me is one of my favorite the Zelda franchise games. A lot of people will probably argue that the Link to the Past or Majora's Mask or the very first Zelda game was the best one, but to me, Ocarina of Time was. But with Majora's Mask, I did enjoy it very much so. There are still things that do drive me nuts, and it is how the side missions were. They were very sometimes cryptic of how Majora's Mask was. I mean, Majora's Mask is nothing but a side quest mission type of game. It's nothing like Ocarina of Time or anything like that. With Ocarina of Time, you got to face a lot of bosses. But with Majora's Mask, you only had to face, 5 bosses. In Ocarina of Time, there was like about 9, maybe a little bit more. But, yeah, Majora's Mask, you had to get a whole bunch of different types of masks. Some of them that really have no point whatsoever, but it's, nice to have as a collectible and what you need to get the ultimate mask to defeat Majora, but which you don't really need. And for the hard pieces, holy crap, some of them were very hard to get. The masks were not that difficult to find. It was the hard pieces. And some of them were very cryptic. Like for one was when the merchant is in Cafe's house, and at a certain time, you had to be there at 1 o'clock, which was on the very last day. And if you're not there at 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, and it's 6 o'clock, Cafe will be there, but the guy that buys the stolen merchandise in Cafe's house will not be there. So it becomes very confusing on what you need to do or what time you really have to be at the place, and you don't know exactly what location that some of these people are at. Thank God they don't get out of the town and go to another location. That'd be really hard and frustrating. But that was just one of the things. But the cleverness of some of them was when you have the Mask of Truth on, you go talk to one of these statues, and they finally have some significance of what these things actually do. There's a lot of it, these things back in the Ocarina of Time where there was no significance whatsoever, but in Majora's Mask they do now. But with the stone statue, they say that a fox likes to play in grass. So I'm like scouting around the area, looking at the patches of grass and all that, and I don't see nothing whatsoever. But so I had to go on YouTube and find out what it was talking about, and some guy on YouTube strikes this grass down with the fox mask on that the stolen merchant gives you from Cafe. And once he strikes the grass down, that dances, the fox will appear. And I thought that was very clever. There's 2 spots of that, and then of course one of them is in the northern town, and the other one is in the where the Milk Road's at. So I found that to be very clever right there, but still there's a lot of the side quest missions that are really hard to find out and hard to figure out what you need to do about it, especially when like I said, the townspeople do different various things, so that becomes very frustrating right there. But the thing I also liked about the Majora's Mask was when they got rid of the spiders from the Ocarina of Time. I had to scout around looking for them. I can only find like 85 of them without any help whatsoever, but of course, after the 85, then I started getting lost. I have no idea where to go in the Ocarina of Time, so I have to look at the internet in order to get 100% of the spiders. But in the Majora's Mask, there are only 2 locations. One of them is in the swamp, and the other one is in where the water temple is. And they're a lot more easy to find this time. I mean, it's not as hard to find them like with the Ocarina of Time. They're just a little bit of a challenge sometimes. But I liked that in Majora's Mask, what they did with the spiders. The story is very dark of any other Zelda game. I liked how the Skull Kid is, who is the main protagonist, who's supposed to be the villain of Majora's Mask, which I really can't say that he's really much of a villain, just because he reminds me so much of like a kid, and he's pretty much of an outcast who's not been loved by any of the people whatsoever, and who also later on becomes befriended with the fairies. But even that is not enough for the Skull Kid, and he pretty much wants to destroy the world for him not being loved enough. And I noticed when I was playing this game, I noticed that he was attacking people who had loved ones, and either lovers or family members, and he would attack and put a curse onto them to make their lives miserable as much as his life was miserable as well. And that's one of the dark premises of Majora's Mask, of how that is, and how he wants to destroy the world by just crushing it with this giant-ass, scary-looking moon coming down to the town and just wipe humanity off the face of the earth. The other thing that's so dark about this game was probably the side mission, which is the longest side mission, which is, I believe I'm saying these names right, it's Inju and Cafe. You had to get these two reunited. Of course, Cafe has been cursed by the Skull Kid. He was once an adult, now he's back to being a kid again, and now he hides away from Inju, his lover, and does not want to be seen with her. But until you get all these, these letters, the necklace, and everything like that, they have a chance to be reunited. And once you have these two reunited, they only have about less than 2 minutes to be reunited until they are crushed into oblivion. So that's the dark premise of the game. And that's what I really liked of how that one side mission was. It was romantic, but it was also sad, and in the dark presence of how it was. That's what I really liked about Majora's Mask. But the things that I really didn't care for, also the camera angles were not as good as the Ocarina of Time. I noticed that when you're the Goron, the camera angles become a little bit more wacky. It's hard more to control some of these mask characters that you have to be, especially with the Goron. The Goron is probably the worst, especially on the when you're inside this moon and you have to do all these sort of jumping platforms you have to be on, and you have to do all these sharp turns. It is very stiff on how that part of the mission was, and I really hated that one, but I got through and I beat it the whole damn game. So I got this game 100%, and of course I needed some help on finding a lot of these hearts, like about maybe 8 or maybe 10 of them. They were very hard to find where you needed to go in this game. That's probably why it also I did not want to play it for the longest time, just because of how cryptic, of how you had to go back in time and everything like that. But Majora's Mask, it is a very enjoyable game, and it is I highly recommend Majora's Mask, though. I mean, it's not one of my favorite of the Zelda franchise games, but it is definitely a pick-me-up. Well, that's it, you guys. Thanks for watching, and I shall never quit gaming.